Hello, Marina. How are you? Thank you. Okay. I'll just take a moment here. And give people a chance to come in since this is live. I can see my chat here, so this helps me. Switch over to live chat. Here we go. I'm not sure I'll be able to see Facebook's chat, but I can at least see YouTube's. We'll just take a few minutes here to give people a chance to come in. I know it's a unscheduled broadcast on a strange day, and a lot of people are probably at work or still sleeping on the West Coast, perhaps. And of course, this will be archived for future watching, which is really what people use our channels for anyway. It's mostly on demand. But anyway, I guess we'll get started here. So, you'd think after more than a decade of doing ministerial work, being out there in very visible ways on the internet, doing very visible work, having podcasts, numerous podcasts, and having done so many things that are all verifiable and still available because, once you put something on the internet, it's always there somewhere, okay? And you'd think with how many years have I been doing Ghost Adventures? I mean, 5, 6 years, something like that. I don't even know. It's been that long. You would think that we would have arrived at a point now where this question of the authenticity of my episcopacy you'd think we'd be beyond that by now. But the ignorance in the world today, because of the very poor use and application of social media, led to this proliferation and these things that people make up and their own stupidity, because it is stupid. You might question, oh yes, there is. There's a plethora of stupid questions. And typically, they're asked of me. Okay? And that's when it's coming down to things that you can easily verify for yourself without having to make yourself look like a fool during a religious service, which is what we saw last night. Now, as a lot of you know, this channel, in addition to what we do with Vestiges After Dark, which is sort of its entertainment branch, we do that mostly for entertainment and throw in a lot of education in there, but do it in a fun way, in an interactive way. And then, of course, any kinds of things that I do, either with production or other events, we broadcast that and link it here on this channel as well. But most of the time, outside of Vestiges After Dark, this channel is about streaming the live mass at the request of numerous people all around the world that came in at the beginning of COVID. So when the COVID-19 lockdown started and people weren't able to go to church, people were asking me if I could broadcast our service. We never did that before. I don't run a diocese. My bishopric is about running an outreach, which is for spiritual healing. And typically to the pop culture avenue, they see that as the exorcism ministry, which is, I guess, what it is in some capacity, but that's a very small part of this ministry's work. But I don't run multiple churches like a lot of conventional bishops do. Okay, we don't run that way. This is a small church and a small ministry. And it's that way by design at this point. We used to be a lot larger. We reduced it down to doing just this work because this is what we feel was the most effective for what the world needs from us. Every ministry needs to justify, I think, itself. Every ministry needs to demonstrate that it has a reason to exist. And we felt that the best way to do that with the Holy Nicolaitan Catholic Church was to invest the majority of its resources into the outreach ministry to help people who are not being helped by the conventional churches. This is all well established, documented, easy to find. You can go to our website. You can type in my name on Google. You're going to find the website. And then any questions you have about who I am or where my validation comes from can be found there. But yet, every single time we try to make something available to the public, we get feedback that is absolutely ignorant to a degree that is unacceptable and inexcusable. Last night was such an example. We had the feast of St. Francis. That includes in all Roman Catholic churches everywhere the blessing of pets, animals. I mean, I guess some churches don't do it if they don't have a large congregation for that, but it is a well-established tradition on the Feast of St. Francis to do this. Every Roman Catholic should know this, and yet we had a supposed Roman Catholic come in to our feed on Facebook last night and disrupt the service for those who are watching on Facebook with comments on, asking numerous idiotic questions about me and my authenticity and, whether or not I'm a real bishop, whether or not some cardinal consecrated me or not, whether or not I'm self-appointed. How are we not beyond these idiot questions by this point? And I say this as I'm saying it because it is absolutely ridiculous and inexcusable to come into a religious service and disrupt it in this way. How would you feel if you belong to a Roman Catholic church and some outsider, some visitor comes in and starts yelling out, WTF? This is what this individual did last night. Because it's social media, it's accepted. Because it's social media, it's safe. Because no one sees you face to face, you think you can disregard the common decency of human protocol? No. That is not acceptable behavior. Our streaming is done for those who have asked for it, and they would like to be able to participate in the Mass virtually through the magic of live streaming without being harassed or bothered or distracted by somebody like that coming into the feed. Now, if this continues, we'll just simply turn off comments. We will have the video stream without any ability to comment. We will turn off that chat room if this cannot stop. Now, our moderators can only do so much, and they try to be delicate and gentle with their approach. They try to be informative. But the fact of the matter is, you don't need to come in and disrupt a service in order to ask a question that is very easily found using Google. And ask in the chat room during the Mass whether or not I am self-appointed. By the way, no, I was not. And you should know this. You should know this going into my feed. Why are you even following my channel if you don't know a simple fact like that? Don't give me the excuse about Ghost Adventures. Ghost Adventures is 0.5%. 0.5% of what I do. I do that to help out. I do that to get the message out, to destigmatize exorcism and spiritual illness so that more people feel comfortable getting help. That's why I'm on TV. That's why I do radio. Excuse me. But the reality is these streaming services, whether it be the divine office, Vespers that we do before Mass and then Mass itself, or any other liturgical events, our congregants take very seriously. And we have congregants all over the world, and we only have one church. And right now it is a private chapel where it's serving this need until we have the public facility built and open, which is down the road because the funding's not there for it yet. We haven't received it yet. And so it's a process. But there is no excuse for coming into another person's church, one that you clearly don't understand and don't agree with the questions that we were receiving last night from this individual. It is inexcusable. It is poor form. And I question your claims to be Roman Catholic, because you should know about the blessing of pets. That's not a mystery. That's not something that we made up. That is a very common practice all throughout the Roman Catholic Church. You should know about it. If you're Catholic, you should know about it. If you don't know about it, you're not as Catholic as you think you are. You should also know that the Catholic Church is a lot larger than the Church of Rome. You should understand your own history and where the independent churches came from, of which this church is a part. This is also something you can educate yourself in without having to disrupt a religious service with stupid questions. Now, I don't know where some of these people who do this, and this is not a frequent thing. I'm not going to try to say that this happens all the time. But it happens frequently enough, regularly enough, that this video was necessary. To be able to actually address this in this formal way, I think is necessary at this point. I'm going to pin this to the top of the Facebook page, and hopefully people will find it on YouTube as well. Or I can pin it there as well, but typically we pin only the most recent video there. And I don't want to really change that. But this is something that I am fed up with. This is something that I find absolutely ridiculous. You know, if you don't enjoy what we do, unfollow this page on Facebook. Unsubscribe from the YouTube channel. If you want to support what we do, then by all means subscribe to the YouTube channel. By all means like every video, because that helps it. By all means subscribe and like the posts on Facebook. But if you don't understand and don't care to educate yourself in what we do and who I am and where my credentials come from, and that you feel that it's okay to disrupt a service in order to get that information that you could have found yourself, but you were too damn lazy to go and do it, then we don't want followers like that. I would rather have 50 followers on Facebook than 3,000 that don't understand a damn thing. Now, our moderators were wondering why the chat's not as active as it used to be. And they interpreted that as being that we don't have as many viewers anymore. The reality is we have more viewers than we've ever had. But they're so fed up with the disruptions in the chat room that they don't watch it. They turn that chat room off. Or they log in on their smart TVs and are able to watch it there and then just have the chat disabled. And I don't blame them. And if we have to do that for you, then we will do that so that we don't disrupt other people who are coming to pray with us. Every Christian should be able to respect that, whether you agree with this ministry or not. Whether you are a Roman Catholic and think that the Holy Nicolaitan Catholic Church is the worst thing that ever happened to the Catholic Church, I don't care. You should at least be able to respect out of Christian decency another Christian service. It's inexcusable. And I'm fed up with it, and I don't want to see it anymore. Educate yourself if you have questions, legitimate questions. Email the church if there's something that you can't find on our website. But I guarantee you, if you go to the website and click on the FAQ, you will find more than enough information about us than you probably wanted to know. You don't have to disrupt services to get that information. And if there is by chance something you don't find there, email the church. Don't disrupt a service. The Mass is not a time for asking questions. The chat room is not there to ask questions. You can do that during Vestiges After Dark. For God's sake, every week during Vestiges After Dark, I beg the audience to call in with questions. No one, hardly anyone ever does. I shouldn't say no one. Sometimes some of you do. But most of the time, no one does. And even in the chat room, it's limited. Usually the same people asking questions, which is fine. If that's the way it needs to go, then that's the way it needs to go. At least they have the courage to do it. But there's places and times for this. During the Mass is not one of them. Show some respect. This is a religious service. For many out there in the world, this is the only connection to church they have. You should respect that. Not spit in the face of everything that we do here, which is a lot more spiritually than I guarantee people like that are doing. I don't care if it's social media. I don't care if you think you have some license to disregard human decency because it's social media and we don't have to be decent anymore. Why do you think I never fought to get back on Twitter? I don't want anything to do with that platform. Because it's a cesspool, and Facebook is a cesspool. YouTube, a cesspool of people like that. So we don't want you as subscribers. We don't want you as followers. Get the hell out. Leave it for the people who actually respect what we do, support what we do, and get something out of it. And I think that should be sufficient. Am I self-appointed? What kind of idiotic question is that? Am I a Catholic bishop? What kind of idiotic question is that? How can you not know? At this point, it's like you're like I just came out of the blue, like you just found out about me 2 weeks ago, like there was nothing written about me before last month. Laziness. Get off your ass and do something with your life. Worry about your own church, because I guarantee you the Roman Catholic Church is in crisis. We are not. We're doing just fine. We don't have any scandals, and we don't have any problems politically like they do. Worry about your own house. Don't worry about mine. I can take questions. Thank you, Timothy. Yes, we deal with this crap all the time. Marina says, I didn't know that independent Catholicism existed. Google searches and reading made it clear. It's not complicated. Out of decency, do the research. Thank you. But no, I mean, at this point, I'm going to leave the chat going for a little while. Okay? I'm going to continue to, I'm not going to make any changes. But I have instructed our moderators to shut down any of that kind of needless chatter going forward. Okay? Because we've gotten so much feedback that people are tired of it. If the moderators have noticed that there isn't a lot of chat anymore, it's because people have privately come to me and said they are sick of the distractions. They are sick of the chattering during Mass. You wouldn't do this in our actual church. This is a virtual church. It has to be for the time being. In fact, it will always be, to some degree, mostly a virtual church because our members are all over the world. And there will only ever be one of these. Even when we build the physical church, there will only ever be one of them. I'm not taking on new priests. I'm not opening up and planting new churches. That's not what this ministry is here to do. So there'll only ever be one location. even when there is a physical public location. And the stream will be still the vital connection that people around the world have to this church. It is a religious service. You don't go into a church and start shouting out a bunch of questions, questioning whether or not the pastor is self-appointed. In what universe is that acceptable behavior in a church? What, because it's your Facebook, you think you can do that? No, you can't. Because you're coming to my page. You're coming to this church. Show some respect. Andrea says she left Facebook years ago. I did too. The only reason why we have a presence there is because there's so many people that watch from Facebook. But we do it on the public page that is run mostly by my church. I don't, get involved in it. That's why a lot of people ask questions there, and I very rarely answer them. I very rarely even go there to see them. I'm sorry. I don't like it. We have our own social media network. And it's very disappointing that I have 3,000 followers on Facebook. I had over 20,000 followers on Twitter when I was on Twitter. Okay? And we have close to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And only a handful of those individuals came over to the Nicolayan Network, where we have a safe space for the church supporters. And even if you're not a member of the church, it's still a safe place for you to come as long as you're respectful to the community there. And you don't have to deal with all of the toxicity of Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, or God knows where else. I have a presence on Instagram, but even on Instagram, I just try to make it fun. I post the food pictures and make it kind of a culinary experience, or if I do traveling, I'll post that too. Or if there's like some big event, I'll post about that, like shooting an episode of something. But I try to make it fun. I don't want it to get too serious. Twitter turned into a disaster site. And I don't want to ever have that again. But there are places you can come to get information, to talk to me directly. That's the Nicolayan Network. You can find that on our website, esotericcatholic.org or Nicolayan.org. Either one takes you there. NICHOLEAN.org or esotericcatholic.org. A little bit easier. Timothy says, ironically enough, in the Roman Catholic Church growing up, I was always taught that disruptive people would be ushered out by ushers, sometimes physically. People think they can do whatever they want online. And that's the fact of the matter is, our moderators are going to act as the virtual ushers. And if you are disruptive, if you keep asking questions without going to the FAQ, the first time you come in, it might be your first time ever seeing the Mass. You might be like bewildered, what is this? And you might ask that question in the chat, okay? And the moderator might explain, this is our Mass, this is Vespers, whatever. And here's the FAQ. They'll link you to the FAQ of the church. If you keep disrupting, and they ask you to be quiet, and they say, please, we're in prayer now, please follow along and pray with us. And if you keep being disruptive, asking very rude questions, like what happened last night, then they're going to usher you out by banning you from the page or kicking you out of the YouTube. They have that power. We have given them the administrative control of those sites to do that. And that will be done from here on out. There's no excuse for it. It is a religious service. Yes, virtual. Yes, using social media, not by choice, but by necessity. That's what we have today, technologically, to do this. And it's very complicated. If you ever looked into doing your own private streaming, very, very complicated. More than I have the time, the resource, or the patience for. Okay, so using a free service like Facebook Live or YouTube makes sense. But we also have the power to disable the chat room. And I know a lot of people who will not even enter the chat room anymore. They told us. They said they are done with it. They watch every week or every time we have an event, and they're doing it on their smart TVs or they're doing it on their computer, but they're doing it with the chat off because they're sick of the disruptions. And I don't blame them. I'm sick of it for them. All right? We would not tolerate this in a physical church. We're not going to tolerate it in this virtual one. Yes, private chapels are a thing. Every bishop, every monastery, every convent, they have private chapels. I am blessed with this very large house, okay? And we have more than enough rooms, and we turned what is essentially the gym, I guess you could say the exercise room. We converted that into the chapel on the first floor of this house. And that's what's serving as the private chapel right now. That will always be the private chapel because I'll always have private masses. But when the physical church is built, the one that the public can go to, then we will stream from there. Okay, and the private chapel will only be for me and my small community. But I mean, you know, I'm tired of people asking, why is this church in a basement? It's a chapel, for God's sake. Does it look like we're running a large church? Does it look like we're operating some massive pastoral ministry? It is an outreach to people in crisis who are not getting help by your churches, the ones that you think are so great compared to us, like the Roman Catholic Church. You know how many of our clients come to us because the Roman Catholic Church won't help them? I'm tired of doing your work. Do your work for a change. Let me do mine. Fed up with it, actually. I know the basement church nonsense. I'm so tired of it. Thank you, Miriam. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Anyway, I wanted this out here because I wanted people to know, okay, if you're going to tune into our service, you are a visitor at that point. As soon as you tune in and enter that chat room, you are a visitor in our church. You are a visitor to our community. And the same rules that apply to going into a physical church to meet a physical community applies here. And our moderators are now going to act as ushers and kick you out if you can not prevent yourself and control yourself from being disruptive. Thank you, Andrea. I hope, I felt it was necessary. Yes, eclectic early churches when Christianity was outlawed were held in small rooms to avoid persecution. And which church is more persecuted in our day and age than this one? For what? What are we doing that is so wrong that we need to have people, usually Roman Catholics, coming in and disrupting our services? Your church is so screwed up. Your Church of Rome is so screwed up. Worry about yourselves. You don't need to be worrying about us. We're fine. Like I said, no scandals here. We run a tight ship. Worry about yourselves. You're not looking too good right now. And your arrogance is unwarranted. And yes, as Marina says, this is a real church with a real parish. It has an actual community all over the world because of this virtual thing. And this was asked of me. I didn't say, oh, you know what? Let's go and do a stream. You know how much extra work and hassle that is for us? When before we used to be able to just hold Mass whenever. We would just be like, we'd have Mass on Saturday, but we didn't do it by a set time. We just would come, we'd get together, we'd talk a little bit, and when we were finally all together, we'd have Mass, and then we'd go eat. And whenever it happened, as long as it happened on Saturday night or Sunday morning or whenever. But, we were asked because of COVID, because people were being isolated from their own home churches, if we could stream so that they'd have some connection to a community. And that just continued on, and a lot of people wanted that. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of about, I'd say, 150 people that watch this regularly. Respect them. It's not a large community, but it is a community. There are some Roman Catholic churches that are that small too. All right? Respect it. These are people that have been disenfranchised from the Church of Rome, or from their Orthodox churches, or from whatever conventional church they might come from. All right, this church welcomes people in. And it's an open communion. We don't care about your denomination. Our form is Catholic, but our denomination is Christian. Which means if you're a Christian, and even if you're not, you're still welcome to participate with and pray with us. We've had Jews pray with us. We've had Muslims pray with us. We've had witches pray with us. We've had agnostics pray with us. Hell, we've even had atheists come to our church. And they're more respectful than you Roman Catholics who think you can come and disrupt us because it's on social media. Don't be an ass, okay? Don't be an ass. Show some decency, for God's sake. Yes, the Gospel of Thomas is such a beautiful thing, isn't it? Eclectic. It's Peter. If you guys know Peter, he's one of our moderators too. The Vampire Witch here, big support for you guys, and thank you. I'd rather I'm going to tell you right now, people don't understand this when I say this, but I mean it. I would rather have a congregation of 1,000 witches than 100,000 Roman Catholics who acted like the guy last night. Because, we've never once had a witch or a pagan or some non-Christian come into our church community online and be disruptive. That is almost exclusively wonder your church is in such crisis. No wonder you don't know what's going on half the time. And you don't even know the tenets of your own religion, the blessing of pets during the Feast of St. Francis. You don't know this? You claim to be a cradle Catholic and you don't know this? Oh my God. It's unbelievable. I can't fathom it. I don't understand it. I can't even wrap my head around a person that would do that, and to try to get information that is easily found on Google. Okay, so I'm just telling you right now. All right, this person was not banned last night. I could go in and ban him now. I'm not going to. All right, I am asking out of basic Christian decency that if you come into our chat room, show respect to the members there. That's it. Those that will not, going forward, will, yes, be thrown out. They will be banned from the page or wherever they were disruptive. And Moosh, you are our primary moderator along with Danielle. Make sure, I don't know if Danielle's here. I don't think so. But make sure Danielle knows that this is the protocol going forward. And, you have the authority to ban. And use it liberally with somebody that is disruptive. Even if it's just constantly asking regular questions and not respecting the fact that you're asking them to please be quiet during the service. You can always tell them, look, we're having Vestiges After Dark on Tuesday or whenever, and, you're more than welcome to come to that event and ask all the questions you want. How often am I begging for people to ask questions? Not to mention, if you send an email to the church at office@nicoland.org, your question might be featured on the show during questions and comments from the ether. Sometimes I'll even do an entire wisdom talk on the Wisdom app about a question that I get. That's a good question. And if even a question that's kind of stupid, if it's asked with a sincerity behind it, might even answer that one on the show. But not during Mass. For goodness sake, that's common sense to not be disruptive during a religious service. In what universe is that acceptable? Well, Moosh knows what to do. So anyway, I mean, I think this is pretty much, I'm not on Facebook. I haven't looked at Facebook. I can go back into Facebook after this, or I guess I could check over here and see if there's any questions on Facebook that I should answer. Yeah, there's a lot of comments here. Let me see. John, okay, I'm going to handle Facebook now because I have it up here. Emily says never acceptable. Thank you, Emily. I'm going to actually like the post that I see. More demons sitting on the steps of the church than in the bars. Yes, John. John, I fully agree with that. They weren't cradle Catholic if they don't know these things. Liz, yes, Liz. You're right about that. Pat says, even I know about St. Francis and I'm not religious. What sort of idiot does that? You just don't interrupt services. Thank you, Pat. And see, it's crazy to me because, we have so many non-Catholics. We have so many people that are not even religious people that follow these pages and show more respect to this work and me personally and our congregation than these Roman Catholics do, who should know better. You're a Christian, for God's sake. Why don't you act like it? What is preventing you, as a Roman Catholic, from acting like a decent Christian? You need to ask yourself that question. Is there something about the arrogance of your faith that is getting in the way of your relationship to God? I think there is. I know there is, because guess what? Where do you think I got my start in the religious life? You think it was in the independent movement? No, you'd be wrong. I was a fully accepted seminarian in the Diocese of Palm Beach, Florida. I went to seminary and everything. And I walked out because I saw too much corruption. And I knew, because of the nature of my vocation, that God was calling me to do this a different way. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should just do the way that I did. I had a very special calling, a very special vocation. Let's not even use the word special. I think that sounds arrogant. I had a very unique vocation. It's not a typical one. It's an atypical vocation. In many cases, I think the reality of my tenure in the Roman Catholic Church was defined by showing me why I needed to do what I ended up doing. I will always love the Church of Rome. That was where I was baptized. That's where I was confirmed. And that is where my heart is. But the Church of Rome, as it exists today, is in a state of disgrace. And I'm very happy that I was called by God to do something else, because I would not want to clean up that mess. And I don't need your filth coming in and polluting my hallway when we're doing our mass. Hopefully with a lot more dignity than I see a lot of Roman Catholic priests today. And yes, I'm going to be very hard, because I can't stand what I see the church, what it's become. I can't stand the fact that I've even had to do this. I can't stand the fact that the Nicolaitan Church has to exist. That disgusts me. But it was necessary. It was necessary because of people like that individual from last night. Clean up your mess, Roman Catholic Church. Clean it up. Stop harassing us. We are not the problem here. You are. Not sure says, I was lost without the bishop. He has helped me find my way back to God. I was planning my death. See, it is for people like you, Not Sure, and so many others. You know, you're just more, you have more courage, I guess, to come on here and talk about it. A lot of people do it privately. But the fact of the matter is, you Roman Catholics who think that I'm some kind of abomination, that think that I'm some kind of heretic, that think that I'm self-appointed, that think that, you know, I made all this church up, that I created the Holy Nicolaitans Catholic Church. I didn't do that either, by the way. You that think this do not understand what happens behind the scenes, the things that are not happening on Ghost Adventures, the things that are not happening on documentaries or Conjuring 3 or all the other productions that I work with, things that don't happen on YouTube, things that I don't stream on this channel or talk about on these social media pages. The things that happen behind the scenes, the people I work with quietly. You don't see that. Nor should you. You're not privy to this. It isn't your business. But we're helping to save lives. We're helping to save souls. And what does the Roman Catholic Church have time for? Come to us and harass us during our Mass. Really nice. Well, that shows what kind of people you are. If I were Roman Catholic today, I'd be ashamed. I'd be disgusted. Claire says, you're a wonderful bishop. I watch your services from the UK. When I catch them, and I'm not even Catholic, do not allow the negative people to upset you. They're not upsetting me, honestly. I'm a passionate speaker, okay? I do talk loud. I do yell sometimes. It's out of passion, not anger. I really don't feel anger. I don't really feel, occasionally, but I don't really get angry. I get passionately motivated, you could say, and it definitely makes me sound angry. And sometimes I think it's the only way to get the attention of people like the one from last night, you know, because they don't, you try to talk nicely to them, and they see your kindness as weakness. And I'm not a weak individual. I'm sorry. I will knock you on your ass and kick you in your face if you try to hurt me or my family or someone I care about. That's just the kind of person I am. Okay? At that point, the casket comes off. All right? And I'll deal with you on your level. I've always been that kind of person. Which is why, you know, if someone's an asshole, I'll say that. I don't try to sugarcoat it. I don't bleep myself. I call an asshole when I see one. And the reason that is that I'm a real person. I'm not pretentious. I'm not trying to be something. I'm not going to be, oh, look at me. I'm the holy bishop. Look at me. I'm that holy exorcist from Ghost Adventures. No. I'm a sinner just like everybody else. I'm a human being just like everyone else. God's given me a different office to work. And I try to do that the best that I can, but I never do it without authenticity. I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and I understand that. But you know what? If I'm not your cup of tea, you don't have to follow me. All right? You have the freedom to block the page. Block it. Unsubscribe. Unfollow. Whatever you need to do. Stop harassing us. Go back to your Roman Catholic Church if you think it's so good. Go. Liz says, this is why you're so respected as a bishop. Real and raw. Thank you. And I think that, you know what? Because I used to know a lot of bishops from the Roman Catholic Church. You know, I knew bishops in the Orthodox churches, although they're a very different breed. And I'm going to tell you right now, they're so pretentious, and they try to put, oh, look at me, I'm a saint, you know, and they don't relate to people, and they can't serve. If you can't relate to people, if you can't get down to their level, they will never relate to you. You're going to you're going to build yourself an ivory tower, and you're going to be looking down on everyone else, and there's no way to connect with people like that. And if you can't connect with the people that you serve, then you can't be effective. So you can criticize my methods, you can criticize my vulgarity, you can criticize my approach and my yelling or whatever it is, but there's no doubt that my approach works a hell of a lot better than theirs. I've seen it. I've been on both sides of that fence. You're not privy to what I know. You're just going to have to take my word for it. Miriam says, I'm glad you talk real shit, Bishop. It might not always be pleasant to hear, but it is needed. Yeah, I think so too. Anyway, I don't want this to be a long thing. I appreciate those of you who came here to watch this live and to interact. I've tried to catch all your questions and comments here. I thank all of you. I love all of you. I really do. This is why I do this, why I put up with these idiots that come in and are disruptive. This is why I do it. Although it's gotten a lot better since I've gotten off Twitter, I have to say. So I think that was really definitely the right move. But, this is why I do it, okay? Because there's too many of you who are decent, sincere people who get so much out of this work. And that's why I do it. Do we get the resources we need? No. People are canceling their pledges left and right. They don't warn us. We try to create budgets. How often do I ask people to even donate? How often do you see me say, look, the church needs these resources, it's lost? I try to limit how often I do that because I can't stand that. But it's always a problem. Look, I will tell you, this is the one thing that makes me different from all the other bishops as well. If this church ever gets too much money, I'll tell you. I'll even say it. If we ever get to a point where we have so much money that we could never spend it all, I'll actually make an announcement and tell all of our benefactors, guess what? You don't even need to, you can cancel your pledges now where we have enough. I'll do that. I'm just that kind of person. I don't ever foresee ever having the resources that we'd be in a position to do that because what we have right now is just so low. Like I said, most of this is self-funded by the church's administrators, by its board. And it's ridiculous that it has to be that way. Absolutely. A church should be able to support itself. Even a church this size should be able to support itself. There's plenty of places to safely go and make a pledge. We have our secure area on the website with with PayPal, and there's a physical address if you prefer to send a check or something that way. There's plenty of ways to support the ministry, but I don't ask for that very often. I only do it as a reminder to say, hey, look, we're trying to enter phase 2. Phase 2 is to just can't sell the products that the church has, the sacraments, can't be sold. That's called simony. The services that it performs, the pastoral work, can't be charged. That's also simony. Churches are almost exclusively dependent upon almsgiving. And if you're not supporting this church, then who is? Why should it be the responsibility of the board of directors only? If you're getting something out of it, support it. If you're not getting something out of it, unsubscribe. But, I put up with it because there's too many of you who aren't sincere. And, we do love all of you, so it's wonderful that that so many of you really are wonderful people. And, we don't really have too many problems anymore. Twitter was a problem. I'm going to say, Twitter was an unmanageable problem. If Twitter hadn't kicked me off, I would have left anyway. I was already prepared to. It kind of almost happened serendipitously. I was at a point where I'm thinking, do I really want to continue to do this? And I know people, anytime I would bring it up, people would ask me on Twitter, don't do it. We want you to stay. And then I would feel obligated to stay. But then it would turn into a shit show again. And I kept saying, I can't continue to do this. It's just too toxic. And so I was getting to that point where I was going to talk to my wife and say, I think it's time to delete the Twitter account. And it was a shame because we had 20,000 people there. But it wasn't 20,000, maybe about 1,000 decent people and about 19,000 disruptive assholes. And I'm like, I don't want this. And so I was getting ready to cancel. And then I logged in one day and I saw that I was permanently suspended from Twitter. And I thought, oh my God, an answer to my prayers. And I'm sure they thought they were doing me some major harm. They have no idea how making up my mind for me, it took all the guilt away. Because I know just the way that I am, I would have felt guilty deleting the Twitter account. Because I would have been like, there's all these people, they didn't want me to go, and this is their only way to reach me, and maybe one of them could hear me say something that was inspirational, or maybe one thing that could prevent someone from committing suicide or something like that. And I feel guilty if I took myself off of that, which is why I created the Nicoland Network, to give people a means to come and still be a part of our community. Unfortunately, very few of you actually came over, and very few of you use it. Those that came maybe showed up once and never heard from them again. I can actually, as an administrator of that site, I can log in and check to see when the last person, or when a person has last logged into the site. I can see it, and it's shocking to me how many people came, interacted one day, and never came back. It's like, why? Why do you need me to be on Twitter? Why are you so obsessed with Twitter and Facebook? Why can't you come over to a community that's decent and, is not going to have those problems? I don't get it. But it's there if you want it, and we pay a lot of money for it. We don't charge you for it. It's free to you. There's no ads. I don't sell your data like Facebook does, but yet you still choose to do all your posting on Facebook, and you don't interact with the Nicoland Network. I don't get it. I don't get it. Anyway, I'm just rambling now, I think. I'm just rambling. Christina says, I grew up Roman Catholic. I'm older and sober now. I feel very connected with you in the church. Well, thank you. I love hearing this stuff from you guys, Melissa says, my grandma always said, don't be so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good. I like that. That's a very good line. John. Oh, John, yes. That's my entire team. Down to earth and real. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I hope that things are going better over there. And I am. They want to be the next saint, right? They want to be seen that way. Usually EWTN's pretty decent. It's Catholic.com you need to look out for. Catholic Answers and all that. They're really nasty people, man. They are nasty people. But somebody on social media, some Catholic thing said, come see the second greatest story ever told. Because you've heard the movie The Greatest Story Ever Told, right? It's, of course, about Jesus. The second greatest story was St. John Paul II. Wait, what a presumptuous thing. I mean, my God. What a presumptuous thing to say. That you're going to put yourself second to Jesus Christ? Are you kidding me? But that's the way these bishops are. And remember, popes are just bishops. They're just bishops that have been elevated to a higher post. But they're just bishops. The Pope is just the Bishop of Rome. That's it. People think popes are like some kind of like special thing. They're not, really. They're not. That's all a bishop. That's all a pope is a bishop. There's nothing higher than a bishop. Not even a cardinal. Not a pope. Those are offices that bishops take. They're administrative only. They don't carry any more weight than that. Now they'll try to argue that it's like the seat of St. Peter and, it's a patriarchate, and okay, that's an administrative thing too. You're still just a bishop. Act like one. And a bishop is a servant of the people. A lot of people don't know that. I guess that's why I'm here, I guess that's why I'm here. To teach you all things about the faith that you've taken for granted, and kind of how pop culture's changed it. Bradley says, you have a wonderful outreach. I have enjoyed every second of witnessing it. Well, thank you, Bradley. Yes, bishops are still human beings, and we better act like human beings. Let's stop acting like we're saints, okay? We're not. We're sinners. We're not even good sinners. The most powerful words that were ever told to me when I was still aspiring to become a priest was from a priest that said, and he wasn't exactly the nicest guy to me either, But he said, God chooses the worst of us. And you know, he's so right. He absolutely does. I wake up every morning and I do my examination of conscience, and I say to myself, how am I worthy of this life? And I'm not saying that it's a good life. You know, being a bishop is a very hard life, particularly one like this. Right? In the Roman Catholic Church, no, you guys, you're pretty much living in your palaces and your ivory towers, drinking your XO cognac, at your parishioners' expense. I mean, believe me, I've done it. I've been there. I know what your lives are like. Being a bishop in an independent ministry like this is exceptionally hard. So I'm not saying it's a good life in that sense. I'm saying it's a good life in the sense that I get to go to the altar and consecrate the body and blood of Christ and touch him. To have that physical connection with Jesus that only priests and bishops can have. And I am constantly in a state of amazement that I get to do this, because I am so not worthy of it. There are countless people out there, many of you who are watching right now, who are better people than I am, and probably more virtuous than I am. But he chooses the worst of us, and I think that's true. I think that's true. But he also chooses, I think, people that can get the job done. And I think sometimes you have to be a little edgy to get the job done well. I do. I think if you're too virtuous, you would never last. You're not, the virtuous are not always thick-skinned enough to do this kind of work. This is like being in the trenches. You're a warrior. You're battling it out. And warriors are not always the best people. They're heroic. They do the right thing. But they're not necessarily the best people. And I think that's why he chooses us. Yeah, St. Paul's a great example. And Not Sure says it best. Not sure, you just hit the nail on the head. How do you expect to reach those that are in the dark without knowing that path and a way back to the light? Suffer on to me. Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's just like the whole thing about a celibate priesthood. Okay? Sounds like a great idea. Oh, let's be like Jesus. Let's be like Jesus. Let's be celibate. Let's be chaste. Let's disregard the fact that bishops were married up until the first, all clergy was eligible for expected to be married for the first 1,000 years of Christianity. Let's just forget that. And then we get into this selfish thing that says, the priest doesn't have time. He has to make the parish his family. He can't. A wife would be too distracting. A family would be too distracting. I'll tell the Orthodox that. They seem to manage. But, it's just like celibacy in the Roman Catholic Church. It's like, how can you relate to families when that's who you're serving and you don't even understand it yourself? A priest that's never been married doesn't know the struggles of a married couple in married life. How would they be able to counsel people on good Christian marital health when they've never experienced it? I mean, it doesn't even make sense. You have to be one of the people you serve. Why do you think Jesus became man? He could have stayed God. Jesus did not have to incarnate a human body to do his work. Jesus could have come down here as God, presented himself as God and only God, and been above all of us. But that's not what he did, because he came down to lower himself to our level and then made him the lowest of the low as an example to demonstrate how we are to serve each other. I mean, that's a remarkable thing. That's what makes Christianity, in my opinion, a superior religion, because no religion has that. Not one. That kind of humility doesn't exist outside of Christianity. It just doesn't. And believe me, I know, I studied them all. It's not there. You have to be able to relate to your people. Jesus knew this. You know. It's why I do what I do. I love you too, not sure. I love you too. Pam says, look who Jesus chose as his disciples. Yes, I mean, the apostles were no they weren't the greatest, were they? I mean, my God, Peter was a hothead. You got Simon, he was basically a radical, probably a borderline terrorist. Judas, I mean, would he have had someone on his team that betrayed him if they were so great? John was probably as good as it got, And Mary Magdalene, Liz says, my priest is not a true server, as you describe. Hard to ever get any guidance. So I'm happy I can get guidance elsewhere. It's been a hard past 2 years, and that's why we're here. That's why the Nicolaitan Network exists. That's why I do Vestiges with open lines and open topics. Why it's 3 hours, giving you time to call into the show, giving you time to talk. We have our email. If there's something that is private that's on your mind, you can email the church, and someone will, sometimes even I will get back to you. There's so many things that this ministry does. So for these Roman Catholics who can all they can do is criticize us, what the hell are you doing that's so great that you feel that you can justify coming here and harassing us? I know what I'm doing. I see the fruit of my work. You might not see it because you don't give a damn enough. You would just want to come into a religious service and disrupt it. But, maybe if you did some research, maybe talk to some of the people this church has helped, you'd learn a little bit about what we do and why we do it. And not ask stupid questions. And those are stupid questions. It is a stupid question to ask if I was self-appointed. It is a stupid question to ask if I'm Catholic. It's a stupid question to ask what this religious service is when it clearly and obviously is a mass. Yes, it's a different tradition than what you're used to. The Nicolaitan Church is a different Catholic tradition than the Roman Catholic Church. You could say it's a different rite almost. But it's not so different that you shouldn't be able to recognize it. If you're going to church, you should be able to look at the Nicolaitan Mass and know it's a Mass. You might not be familiar with Vespers because a lot of Roman Catholic churches don't do Vespers, but they do it in the Eastern Church, and it's different there too. Marina says, an Orthodox priest I once met said everyone comes to him to complain about their spouses since he is married. It is a funny conversation, but so true that it helps families when the priest is married. Absolutely, because you can relate. Peter says, I had a drill sergeant talk to us about leadership, and he said the day soldiers stop coming to you with problems. The day the soldiers stop coming to you with problems or questions, you have failed them as a leader. Same for clergy. Yep. If you're doing your job right, you should be opening more questions than answers. Yeah, I mean, people look at religious leaders, no matter how big or small, and they see us as answer people that have the answers that they're looking for, people that can maybe answer. But if we're not providing information that leads to more questions, we're not doing our job well. And honestly, if these kinds of sessions help you, we can do more of these. I can just turn on at my desk like I am right now. I can just, when I'm doing an office day like today, I can turn on the feed and we can just have a chat. If that will help you as a community to get your questions answered instead of, some of these people coming to the mass to disrupt it with questions in the chat room. If you want to just have more of these, let me know. And I'll do more of these. Yeah, office hours with the bishop, Tim. That's right. Timothy says, many of the Roman Catholic priests I've had in my lifetime have had a God complex. It's extremely off-putting. Always has been. Yeah. A lot of them do. A lot of them don't. Some of them are insecure people who found a way to feign security. I found that at least in my day, when I was in seminary, I found most of those kids to be quite insecure. There was a lot of self-esteem issues, and the church gave them a sense of bypassing the effects of that low self-esteem. It gave them a sense of instant leadership, and they weren't really there for the right reasons. It's kind of like the monasteries have to be careful, because a lot of people come to monasteries, particularly contemplative monasteries, with the hope that they can escape the world because they hate their lives, and maybe they're in financial crisis, they've gone bankrupt, they can't get a job, they don't want to do a job, whatever, and then they see the monastery as an escape, kind of almost like a safe suicide, ending their life without ending it. And maybe they can get some answers along the way. And monasteries have to constantly guard against that type of thing, because that's not, running away from the world is not why you join a monastery. You run away to a monastery to live more deliberately, not to live less on the radar. What's your question, Genevieve? I didn't see it. Marina says, sadly, there's probably a great lack of discernment. Some people are appointed by their ego, not God, to be a priest. Yeah, and the church isn't doing a great job with discernment anymore either. They used to, discernment was paramount. Now it's just, I think they're willing to take almost anybody. Yeah, it gives them a role of authority that insecure bullies seem to love. That's correct, Timothy. A lot of bullies become priests. No doubt about that. Genevieve, I didn't see your question, so if you'd like to ask it again, please do. Is that what to question is to believe means? You talked about not knowing everything, and I said, is that the meaning of to question is to believe? I mean, I don't know if it's specifically that or not, but I think that any teacher can tell you that you learn more from teaching than you do from being a student. So again, just like priests, just like political leaders, just like anybody else, military, we were talking about the military and, the rank of command. The same is true for teachers. If you're not learning more than your students, you're a lousy teacher. If teaching them isn't teaching you more than they're getting, you're a lousy teacher. So it's kind of like that. If we're not generating more questions than answers as leaders, and teacher is a type of leadership, and an important one at that, because you're shaping young minds typically. If you're not good at it, if it's not generating more questions than answers, then you're not good at it. You should be in a constant state of wonder. And it is an act of humility. Liz says, we took our daughter out of Catholic school because our priest was just awful. Broke my heart. Problem, not our priest who was never present. Oh yes, I've dealt with that. Drake says that, talking about doing more of these live one-on-ones. I don't mind doing them on an office day. Liz says, I think that's a great idea. Okay, so it sounds like you guys want this. So honestly, if you guys really feel like there's something that could be gained from this, I mean, I noticed, like, look at how we've grown right now. We've got 23 people watching on YouTube right now, on YouTube, and we got 9 people on Facebook right now. That's great. Brandy says she agrees, this is refreshing. Andrea says, I love this community so much. Miriam says, that would be nice, Bishop. I like this kind of thing. Nat sure says, we will take all we can get. I mean, if this is going to help to prevent disruptions during the liturgy, then I think that's time well spent at the very least. An hour a month for office hours. I think that plus open live show is a great amount of opportunity for us to get questions. I think so, Timothy. And, you know, for those that don't want to join the Nicolaitan community, it's also a way that you can still ask questions, because I don't do much social media stuff unless it's on my own network, the Nicolaitan network on Mighty Networks. That's our own social media group, okay? It works just like Facebook without the toxicity. And, yeah, it feels like a conversation in the office. It's like you're sitting here with me, you know? You can't see behind the camera, but you know, all the chairs are the little sitting areas over there with the cigar lounge, you know, and it's almost like you're sitting there while I talk from my desk. It's kind of fun. But yeah, I mean, you know, there's a there's definitely, this is something we can do. You know, we'll do it more often. You know, we'll shoot for around. I don't want to promise anything definitive, because sometimes things can get hectic, particularly as we're getting into the Christmas season, Advent and Christmas. But we can shoot for about once a month. You know, if I have an office day that's particularly light, I'll just turn this on and we'll just do it. I'm not going to schedule them, because I think that would be a little, that would create too much, I think, strain on my schedule, and I need to have that flexibility during my office hours. But I think, you know, we'll just do a live, you know, and look at 25 to 15 people, you know, about 20 to 30 people have shown up for this. And this was unscheduled. So I think that's good. And then it stays up there so people can watch it when they want, on demand. And it might inspire more questions. They can come to the next one and ask, or they can come to Vestiges and ask. Thank you, Not Sure. Yes, it is beautiful. It's nice to have all this space now. This is a very large home, and this is actually the library, and it's very, it's a nice, quiet place. We're on 18 acres of land in the middle of nowhere, and it's nice. It's quiet, it's comfortable, and there's wonderful wildlife out there. And it's perfect to live a semi-contemplative life. Not sure, said you didn't even get a notification. Wow. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on YouTube. Make sure you go to the YouTube channel and subscribe, and make sure your notifications are on. Yeah, I mean, I think, Miriam, I think what I can do is I can put something on, you know, maybe like if I know that I'm going to have a light day, I can maybe put an announcement that I'm going to go live soon with office chat, or whatever we want to call it, you know, chat from the Bishop's library, whatever. You know, we can come up with something like that. And then, you know, that way there'll be some notice. But I don't want to schedule like weeks in advance like we do with Vestiges or the church schedule. Yeah, make sure you click that bell icon on YouTube. Actually, honestly, all of you on Facebook, YouTube has much better quality. Okay, it's a better quality feed. It's a little bit more stable than Facebook. So it would be really helpful to this church if you subscribe over there to the channel, just look for Nicholean TV, Nicholean TV, okay? And subscribe. You don't have to watch over there if you don't want to, but subscribe to it because that helps the channel. But if you watch over there, I think you're going to have a better experience than you will on Facebook. We'll still simulcast like I am right now to Facebook because there's still a lot of people. Thank you, Pam. Thank you. Yes, I'm glad you enjoy. I'm glad you find it beautiful. I do too. It's a nice home. Pam says, I would rarely seek something like this from my parish priest, but I need it. I love this more casual setting to really relate on some different levels. And I think that's what it is. You know, I mean, I think religion's become sort of like this thing where it's just so, there's too many barriers. The bishops and the pastors are not approachable people. You know, we can't be like that. And if the Roman Catholic, if that meant me having to subscribe to that model to be a Roman Catholic bishop or priest or whatever I would have ended up, then I didn't want it. That's not the kind of ministry God called me to. He made it very specific. God was very specific with my vocation. There was no mystery to it. There was no like, oh, I'm not sure. Should I do this? Should I not do this? I knew from the first day he reached out to me and told me what he expected of me. I knew all the details. There was no mystery to it whatsoever. And I knew what I had to do to carry it out. I tried to do it through the conventional church. I tried to do it through the Church of Rome. But they wanted me to be too pretentious. They wanted me to be too unapproachable. I walked, Peter, the perimeter of the back acreage. We have 2 lots, actually. And the back acreage is about 11 acres. The front acreage is about 7 or 8. And I walked the back acre. Now you can't go all the way because beyond there's a creek that passes through the middle of the property, and beyond the creek it becomes very swamp-like and very high grass, and you know there's going to be like snakes and things in there, so you don't really want to walk through there without boots on. And I didn't have boots with me, so I was just walking the perimeter because now that it's fall, it's thinning out. The underbrush is dying. It's a lot easier to walk through the forest. And so I was walking the perimeter of the property and putting up surveyor's tape to mark the border so I would know where the border of the property is, and also to install no trespassing signs, no hunting signs, because guess what? I found a trail cam yesterday. Yeah, right smack in the middle of my property, I found a trail cam. And I took it down and brought it back to my computer and downloaded all of the pictures on it. And sure enough, it was put up on the 1st of October, which is right at the beginning of hunting season. And sure enough, the picture had a hunter putting down bait to collect to bring the deer over to our area. But in the state of Georgia, you can't hunt on someone's private property without their explicit permission, and you typically have to renew that permission each season. We did not provide any permission for hunters on our property. I don't, I mean, if someone's going to be hunting on this property, it's going to be me, not someone else. And so I brought the trail cam back, and I saw that it was a very sophisticated model that had a cell connection, and it also had a GPS locator. So you know what I did? I put it right here, aimed at this monitor, and I put on the monitor a big sign that said "No hunting," and I let that transmit to wherever this hunter was. Well, it got his attention because an hour later there was a person walking around my property with his phone trying to track where his camera had ended up. And he knocked on the door. So I answer it with my 45 at my side, quite visible. And I said, "Yes, can I help you?" And he says, "Hey, did you happen to take a trail cam from the woods back there?" I said, "Oh yeah, you mean the trail cam that was attached to my tree on my property? Yeah, I did take that. By the way, it's legal for me to seize something like that. I didn't have to give it back to him. It was illegally put up." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I don't want any hunting back there." I said, "That's my private property, and I haven't given any permission." He says, "Well, I didn't know that was private property, and my friend," and he starts pointing down in this direction. He says, "My friend said that it was okay." Well, it's not okay. I said, "Maybe you had an agreement with the previous owners, but I have given no such permission, and I'm not about to. I mean, I don't want hunting on my land unless it's me." So he said, "Well, could I have my camera back?" I said, "Yeah, you can have your camera back. Just don't want to see you on my property again." And he said, "Can I go back and get my hunter stand?" And I said, "Yeah, you go get it. Get off my property after that." But that's the kind of thing yeah, hunting on land is a serious offense. It is. I don't know if it's a felony, but I think it is a definite criminal trespass, I think. But so anyway, I went out there to well, see, that's the thing. I don't think this guy had a hunting license, because you don't need a hunting license in the state of Georgia if you're hunting on private property. So let's say, for example, this guy who has no hunting license wants to hunt on my land, and I say, "Yeah, it's okay." He can legally hunt there without a license, as long as it's within the season. You still have to follow the season. But you don't need a license if it's private property and you have permission. I don't need a license to go hunt on my land, and I don't need anyone's permission except my own, as long as I'm within season. You can't hunt outside of season. But I mean, he might have been hungry, but the fact of the matter is, I don't want someone shooting guns where my kid plays. It's that simple. I want to be in control of what's happening on my property at any given time. So if my son is trekking through the woods, I don't want to have to worry about somebody being in there and mistaking him as an animal and shooting him dead. So I don't care if the guy's hungry. He's going to need to go find his food somewhere else, not on my land. Yeah, I don't want stray bullets, and there's always hunting accidents. You hear them every season. I'm not against hunting at all. But if we have hunting on this land, I want to make sure it's me that's doing it, because I will know to tell my son, "I'm going into the woods. You need to, either come with me and stay with me, or you need to go back to the house." Your veteran would have flipped out. Yeah, I was trying to maintain my calm. Would I ever run for president? I hate politicians with such a passion that I don't think I could ever find myself becoming one of them. And I don't think I'd do very well if I did. I don't think I'd be popular. I can't be what people would want me to be. And I don't think I'm corrupt enough. Look, I'm not a great person, okay? I'm a sinner like every one of you. I'm no different. I struggle with the same things you struggle with. But the one thing I am not is a person that accepts corruption. I do pride myself in being a person of relatively decent integrity. And I think I'd have to compromise that too much to be the president of the United States. And I don't think, even if I were to attempt it, I would do very well, because I don't think many people would like me. I mean, look at what it's like just with the church. Can you imagine the trolls we'd collect if I was running for president? Oh, God. That would be nightmarish. Open the door in this outfit. That would have been interesting. That would have been interesting. Yeah, I don't usually dress like this unless I'm doing something formal. I wonder what he would have said. I mean, it probably would have scared the living shit out of him. And that would have been fun. Particularly if I had my gun on me. Wouldn't it be nice if I had the holster right here on the outside and I answered the door like this with the 45? That would have been, I think, a delightful thing to see. 60 days imprisonment and a $500 fine, yeah. Well, he's lucky he didn't get shot, because I'll tell you, I was armed. When I walk deep into the woods, into the forest, I carry I do carry my firearm, or one of them, and usually the 45, because of its stopping power. It's not so much for intruders; it's more about wild animals. But it would be fun with the gun, wouldn't it? It would have been fun. Since he was at the front door, the security cameras would have gotten him from different angles, because we actually have 3 security cameras at the front of the property, and one that looks this direction, one that looks this direction, and one that looks this direction. You would have seen them from all sides. It would have been fun. I should have thought of it, but no. I was just happy to get him off my property. I wanted the guy to come, because I knew he had a tracker. I knew he'd try to, because it's an expensive camera, he'd want it back. Yeah. Knock, knock. The Eagles love my place? Yes, they do. They do. Cassie says, yes, I feel safer here than I felt in my life in several different churches. The clergy seemed pious, rigid, and unapproachable. It felt cold and uncaring. Yeah. Because that's what religion needs to be now, right? You know, I mean, it's just a job for most of these people. It's just a job. It's not a vocation anymore. People don't see it as a vocation. And it's sad. Well, I think we have accomplished what I set out here to do. I hope the message gets across. And I hope people watch the whole thing if they, when they watch the replay. Please consider subscribing. We got 922 subscribers to Nicolean TV on YouTube. We'd like to get that above 1,000. So please subscribe. You can also find me, if you must use conventional social media and you absolutely refuse to come and join us at our own social media network, then Instagram's the place. Now, I'm not going to answer questions and get into crazy philosophical talks there, but you can still find me there. It's at Exorcist Bishop. It was the same handle that we had on Twitter, and you can find me there. And mostly what I post there is fun stuff, and you can ask questions about fun stuff. That's fine. I'm thinking about, pretty much in Facebook. Like I said, if you have to watch on Facebook, we'll still stream it there. But please at least subscribe to the YouTube channel. Help the channel out, okay? Yes, I'm going to have office hours. We're gonna try to do this at least. We're gonna shoot for once a month. No promises, but we're gonna shoot for somewhere in the neighborhood of once a month. I'll put out probably an announcement the morning of that we're gonna do an office hours chat, and it's just gonna be like this. And you can ask your questions, and we're not gonna have to worry about people disrupting the mass any further. Okay. In the meantime, go to nicolan.org, esotericcatholic.org, and click on the FAQ, and then you should be able to get all the answers you want about who I am and where my credentials come from. Thank you, Timothy. Not sure, Marina, Harley, everybody. Brandy, thank you so much. And we'll talk soon, okay? God bless and take care.